Hello and welcome to Gnostic Warrior Radio and Podcast, broadcasting from GnosticWarrior.com in San Diego, California, to around the world. I'm your host, Mo, and today on the show we have Freeman Fly of FreemanTV.com. Freeman has been on the forefront of the conspiracy theory movement for nearly 2 decades. In this episode, we talk about everything from Miley Cyrus to Aleister Crowley and his influence on Hollywood, and also the Illuminati and who Freeman believes they might be. This is a great episode with some new stuff that he hasn't spoken about, and it's great to talk to him today. How you doing today, Freeman?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just hanging out here, Mo.
You know, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know you're really busy with tons of projects going on. You're always doing something new. What's new? What's going on with Freeman today?
It's really exciting. For one, I'm actually being invited to conferences these days instead of having to just bash them. Because every time you ever saw me on the stage, it's because I snuck into the conference and they were forced to put me on stage. So it's exciting. I did Free Your Mind, and I did Conspiracy Con, and then a little paranormal one here in Kansas. So been traveling back and forth across and getting that stuff done. And I have that up on FreemanTV.com right now, where you can watch Aliens from Hell, my latest presentation. On top of that, we're working on Weird Stuff Part 2, our book, and getting those out to, hopefully gonna get this done. We were shooting for about Halloween, but who knows? It takes a while. So I've been working on Weird Stuff. Jamie's been working real hard getting that together. And meanwhile, I'm working on a brand new TV series for David Icke's new network, The People's Voice. And this has been somewhat of a challenge in trying to come up with fresh material and stuff that will really catch, and trying to come up with a format that will reach out to popular culture. And so we're real excited. We're calling the TV show Conspiracy Science Theater right now, and it's almost like Saturday Night Live meets the History Channel, and we got some celebrities involved, and I think it's going to be really good, and maybe a little stoner-oriented. I'm not exactly sure, but so far it's kind of going that way.
Who do you plan to have on your team for this project, Freeman?
Well, I have my Type 1 crew, a gathering of amazing artists that have been producing stuff for the internet for free for years and years. And so if you go on my website, I have a section called Type 1 Artists, and these are a lot of the people that are involved, and some that I'm trying to get more involved. So I have a couple of editors that have been doing really good. They actually both were working to win Alex Jones' InfoWars video competitions. Both were winners. And then both came to me and said, well, I don't want to work for Alex Jones. I want to work with you. So I've got these heavy hitters, but, you know, we're all non-professionals, right? We're all just amateurs doing it well, I think is what it is. And so I've got all of them involved. I've got Kathy O'Brien wants to play a steady role in the show. And if you don't know who she is, she wrote Transformation of America, and was essentially the mind control slave utilized by Dick Cheney. She's going to be coming out with like Transforming with Kathy and discuss ways out to get out of trauma-based mind control. And she's kind of brought along possibly Roseanne Barr, who may be making an appearances. We haven't quite sorted out what Roseanne's going to do for the show just yet, but she's in the wings. And then we have Dan Fogler, Disney star who has been in Mars Needs Moms. Most people remember him from the ping pong movie Balls of Fury. But of course, Dan's been in so much stuff, and no one knows who he is, so we're hoping to make him more popular by bringing him into the conspiracy realms. I mean, this guy should be totally, known by everyone. He's been in, dozen movies, but every time I ask, they're like, Dan Fogler? No. But then you bring up the ping pong movie, and they go, oh, yeah. So he's a hard hitter that's definitely on board. He has a new movie coming out called Don Peyote, and I'm in this. And in the film, it's kind of an awakening film and what can happen when people start to awake but their partner doesn't. And I thought that was such a great topic and a great movie line. And, of course, Dan took it out to the ultimate extremes of just psychedelia, I guess. And Don Peyote the character Warren Allman is going to make regular appearances on our new TV show as well. And we'll be working with the guy from Wizards of Waverly Place. So it's crazy where this is all going and how many Disney stars that I'm going to end up working with before it's all done.
That's interesting. You're working with the Disney stars. And I know being in alternative media, it's really hard to earn money to fund your projects. And I'm sure you might be running into some of those same problems. What are you doing to earn money, or what have you done over the years to fund your projects?
Yeah, seriously, I wouldn't have gone this long without the support of my mother. She is one of the largest supporters of my show for over the years. Thankfully, I've been able to break away from her because, I mean, honestly, she was supporting me with her Social Security check, so it's not like I have a family with money or anything, but she kept the rent paid for me when I couldn't make it, and this allowed me to carry on with the show. It is a new world, and we are at this area. You know, every time there's a new form of physics, we also develop a new system of living. And with the current system of chaos physics, we're now in the idea of minimum input, maximum output. Because I sorted it out. I did the math on the stats of my website, and if every person that came by left a quarter, I would be making $182,000 a year. Right, so that's like nothing for anyone to toss a quarter, but it is, because then you got to sign up for PayPal, you got to have your bank account, you got to give that bank account over to, and people aren't, that enthused to do all of that. So it has been quite of a struggle to figure out how to monetize doing this, because, that creating video takes months of effort of just nonstop work. There's no time for a job. And honestly, the only reason I was able to ever produce a TV show in the first place was because I was homeless. I was living in my van, and I would just go down to Access Studios, learn what I needed to learn, and create what I needed to create. And then internet video came along. So I started on the Access Television, and then it progressed over to the internet with Google Video, and then finally YouTube, which I was actually reluctant to join because I didn't want to go on a website where it only allowed me to put 5 minutes of my video up. So it's been really, one learning lesson after another. I mean, I learned more about how to put things on the internet than I do about conspiracy at this time, how to produce these type of shows. And that takes a lot of my time. But I've managed to pull it together. I initially made DVDs of my shows, even though they were all free on my website and on YouTube and on Google. I made the DVDs so that people could support the show. You could go watch it for free on my website all you want, but people wanted something tangible, they wanted something to remember, and they wanted to support the show. So the DVDs were a great idea. And Affordable Sound at affordablesound.com, they have been just so good to me in producing these and giving me credit and allowing me to pay them when I can. So that was a big deal, really, the DVDs. And now we've got live streaming or pay-per-view streaming, and I'm trying to challenge some of that. I'm using backdoors and trying to find ways to niche my stuff. So like Aliens from Hell right now, my latest presentation, I'm charging $4.99 for. I had to figure out how to build a backdoor in the whole system so that then I could hide it and charge for it. And this has been a pretty good way of doing it, too. So this is the new thing. But now we're going out to Roku, we're going out to Google Television, Apple TV, all the different media streams. And, YouTube's trying to do a subscriber-based thing but it's not working out. No one wants to pay for, YouTube subscriptions. So it's been, honestly, okay, to get back to the whole idea of the chaos physics, I streamed off real quick and I'll finalize this.
Sure.
The idea of minimum input and maximum output, the fact that people can just give $1 and so this has been something that I've been trying to promote throughout the 8 years, to think of this as a service industry, Did you like the show? Tip $1, right? Give me less than you give your barista for making you that mocha latte. You know, I don't care. $1 would do. And typically what happens when I did a show like that, I would get $1. That was it. So it's never really been, I still have yet to figure it out, but somehow, some way, I tend to make it every month. Usually I have to go do a conference or do something where I'm in the public eye in order to actually make money then.
Yeah, I know with the internet, everybody wants everything for free, and when it comes to audio and video, it's really hard to monetize. How is the sales of everything going on your website with the new DVD and movie?
Yeah. You know, it rolls a little slower than I always expect. I really thought Weird Stuff was going to be our catalyst or our explosion to get us out so that we can, make stuff. Because you got to have money to make stuff. And people don't understand that too much when you're supposed to be a free man and then, you're like, well, I still got to pay for this. But so Weird Stuff, our book, I really thought that we were going to make quite a few thousand sales right off the bat, and that one's been kind of a trickle. We actually sell about 1 book a day, but we don't make much off the book because it's all full color. So we're paying the publisher 80% of the money, and then we just get whatever's left over, like $2. You know what I mean? If you sell it on Amazon, we get $2. So the book didn't really take off as fast, but it's been going. And the video, it's been steady every day, a couple of 2-3 people. And then my Miley Cyrus article that I just posted on the VMA Awards and the invocation of Kali and what that all means, that went somewhat viral. Yet I have noticed that it seems that Google has blocked me. So if you were to Google Miley Cyrus Satanic Conspiracy or Miley Cyrus Conspiracy at the VMAs, I don't come up in the searches that I can see, and so I think I'm being blocked on that. Very interesting. And so all my hits for that have been coming actually through my Facebook posts, and anytime I'm not posting it on Facebook, it just doesn't get any play at all. I find that really, I wonder a lot if I'm blocked all over the place, because I don't see a whole lot of foreign hits, and I used to, and so I wonder about that a lot.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there might be some censorship going on out there. I've noticed that myself on my website, and it only seems natural that, if we're going to have this open web and it was created by the government, that, they're going to dedicate some of their intelligence community to this, and people such as ourselves that might have a little bit of an influence might have someone censoring us.
I was going to say, with all my CERN bashing, I bet, they're the ones that created the World Wide Web. I'm sure that they might be having something to do about that, because I bash CERN all the time.
Yeah, I know we seem to be entering a new age, as they say, of knowledge and light, but also at the same time, there still seems to be a veil being placed on some of that knowledge. A perfect example would be that recent article that you had done on Miley Cyrus at the recent the MTV Music Awards. Can you tell us a little bit about that article?
Cool. Yeah, sure. The amazing thing for me is that I've been saying this since 2006 when I started the Freeman Perspective. I had a core theory that I laid out on the first 6 shows, and then the rest has just been an expansion and a recovering of all the same theories that I covered. I mean, I was talking about cloning of mummies back on my 3rd television show, and now I've got a whole lecture about it, and so the concepts that I've been dealing with are the ideas of Kabbalism and magic, and who's performing these magical feats, and then how this relates to the symbolism that we're seeing. And I'm consistently led to this concept of the abyss and the beast in the abyss and the fallen angel's connection to the beast in the abyss. And all of the symbolism that I study, and as give you an example that's in Aliens from Hell and on my website, but the voice. Now, this one to me was a classic example of everything that I had been saying, because I had predicted that W would be forced into office because his letter, W, was the symbol of the fallen angels, or the abyss. And this is done through gematria. And what I discovered was that I'm looking at secret societies, numerous different secret societies that are influencing all of the culture of the world, and even the structure of civilizations, the ideas of corporations, everything. It all leads back to these secret societies. And then as I studied them more, I found that they were related to Kabbalah, which is the ancient Hebrew mysticism. And once I discovered that Freemasonry was Kabbalah, then I started simply applying this one system of magic to the representations that I was seeing. So I discovered that 66 was the number of these fallen angels. And in that, I knew that the Hebrew letter was V, and so 66, V, V, or W. And I said they were going to force this man into office. And so this was my way of bringing the occult together with the politics, and I was right every time. So now flash forward to The Voice. Now, The Voice is a TV show that is, outlining culture for us, creating culture for us, and their symbol is the V with the peace sign. Now, the peace sign was a symbol that was taught to Winston Churchill by the magician Aleister Crowley, who was also known as the Beast 666, right? Had everything to do with the creation of our modern culture. The peace sign taught to Winston Churchill was a sign of Typhon, who is the beast who lives in the abyss. And this was a sign that was supposed to defeat the solar symbolisms of the Nazis, which were, the swastika. Okay, so you see this V Typhon symbolism on The Voice, and then you also see the V of The Voice, and this is the VV again, the abyss, the 66. Well, the corporation that puts The Voice out is a corporation known as Talpa. Now, they are in conjunction with another corporation named Endemol. Those are the guys that put out, like, Heroes. And they've got a reptilian-seeming eye as their corporate logo, and the name of their corporation, even though it's based on their names, makes out Endemol, which is just not a great thought. So Endemol and Talpa then put out The Voice, and their corporate logo is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, which is 10 spots on a pattern that they believe is the map of the other dimensions, of the other side, leading from earth to heaven. And in between on these 10 spots, this is where you get your tarot cards. Each one of the 10 spots has its own special significance, and there is actually an 11th spot that is hidden, which is known as Da'ath. Now, 11 has always been the accursed number because it's the number beyond God. And that's where you got your 10 spots, and then 11 is the one above. But the Da'ath is actually hidden within the 10, okay? This symbol that Talpa uses as their corporate logo takes the spot for heaven and moves it into the abyss, and that is their corporate logo. So they're showing us again and again the relationship of how they're moving us into this abyss. And then this abyss ended up relating out and exploding into the extraterrestrial realms. And I started to realize that there was a massive connection between the abyss and UFOs and the ideas of extraterrestrial contact. So that's where I came into Aliens from Hell.
Let's get back to Miley Cyrus. But before we do that, can you explain a little bit about Aleister Crowley and how you'd mentioned he had taught the peace sign to Winston Churchill to counteract the magic of the Nazis. Can you explain that a little bit?
Realize that Crowley was head of numerous magical orders, even creating his own. So he came through the Golden Dawn, moved into the OTO, basically took over, revamped all of that, and then created his own AA organization that was his own separate form of magic. And he is the one that put the letter K at the end of magic because he wanted his magic represented as the accursed magic, as the dark magic. Because K has been the 11th letter in nearly every alphabet. And he wanted to set himself apart. And so when you see magic spelt with a K, that's due to Aleister Crowley's form, and to make it accursed or black magic.
So he was a black magician.
Yes.
Okay.
Calling himself the Beast, the Antichrist, and using the number 666. He was came up through a very rigid Christian upbringing, and I think that's what pushed him over the edge into being the ultimate Satanist. But his form of magic is actually a sex-based ritual magic, and a lot of the concepts. When people are looking at Illuminati symbolism in what we call high-profile rituals like videos and music awards and the Super Bowl, they are actually looking at not Illuminati symbols, but OTO symbols. Most of the time when people are calling out the Illuminati, what they really mean is the Ordo Templi Orientis. Because Aleister Crowley was at the heart of rock and roll. He was at the heart of creating the culture that we live in today, the idea of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This all came straight through him. If you don't realize, just look that the Rolling Stones were Crowleyites. The Beatles were Crowleyites. David Bowie was Thelemite. That's what they call their members, is Thelema, the will. And you could go on and on, just listing out the Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page lived in Crowley's house on the Loch Ness. He bought the house. They had one of the largest collections of Crowley's works. And so this is how much influence he had. He was on Sgt. Pepper's album cover on the Beatles. He was the red Scarlet Woman is their symbol, and you will see Lady Gaga or Miley Cyrus meeting the Queen as the Scarlet Woman. You'll see that Scarlet Woman on the Rolling Stones album. You will see this stuff just bubble up over and over and over again if you're aware of it. So Crowley was not only a lead magician, writing out, creating these magical forms, channeling Horus in the Great Pyramids with his wife and such, writing books that altered the whole concepts of magic. But he also was MI6 intelligence, British intelligence, one of the highest-ranking Freemasons. He said that if he ever wore all his Masonic regalia, he'd fall flat on his face. He was a very influential character in the creation of the 20th century.
Yeah, definitely when you look back at the 40s and the 50s, the happy days of the 50s, it transitioned into the 60s, where we had the acid culture and the tune-out culture, and then it kind of progressed from there into the 70s and the 80s. I was a part of the punk rock scene, and that slowly degenerated, and I learned after a certain amount of time, that this music was, I was self-destructing myself with a lot of the music I was listening to, and the drugs and, live fast, die young kind of culture. So it looks like they use black magic and darkness and chaos, whether that be in music or in media, to play on us and, for us to go after our animal natures, our lower selves, as opposed to our higher selves, and choosing the higher road. The media in the Western Empire has pretty much degenerated, and it's kind of a way to keep people under control. That way they're busy, being degenerated, and their morals and ethics are just going down the tube. So they're, drinking and smoking and partying, and, there's no more family values or morals or ethics anymore. So it's kind of the culture that they created.
Yes, and Weird Stuff Part 2, which we call Operation Culture Creation, is actually going to show you how satanic your belief systems already are. You're going to see the satanic perspective, and then you're going to see how it relates to what you think of as just normal life. And I think it's really going to shock a lot of people.
They force us pretty much to be a part of the system. And I guess it's just a matter of, do we sell our soul or our higher selves to buy into it, into the mind control and everything. So, the good news is that there is free will out there for some of us who choose not to buy in it. And, the music that we listen to, the media that we put into our heads, that all makes a huge difference in influencing us. And, back to Miley Cyrus, what is up with that? Can you tell us a little bit more about that article and what you had saw during this performance?
Yeah, and first and foremost, I want people to just contemplate the idea that these women, these celebrities, they have handlers, and that this isn't their own free artistic expression that is coming out. And too often I hear oh, well, she's just trying to get attention, or she's just... Well, once you start to discover the esoteric roots of these rituals, and this going back all the way to ancient Greece or even Egyptian stories that they would perform, the actors would always be the representations of the god forms, or even invoke these god forms into themselves to then give the performance. And this really was the purpose of an actor. So when I started to elaborate on high-profile rituals, one of the first one was of course Britney Spears kissing with Madonna at the I don't remember what awards that was now, but Madonna coming down in a top hat, coming down 13 steps to the song Hollywood, which is based on the magician's wand. The Hollywood is the wand that they use, Holly. Coming down to this song while then presenting Britney to the world and giving her the kiss of death, if you will. Madonna is a classic example of how this all is actually interworked into the system, because she is a high priestess within Kabbalah, going out even and performing rituals with rabbis at the cemetery in Israel at midnight. She takes it to the ultimate. She's even removed the vowels from her name, being MDNA now, taking out the O, Madonna. So this is to give her name a more Kabbalistic bent, because Hebrew doesn't have these vowels. So we could see again and again that these people are influenced and involved in these organizations. They all go to the Kabbalah Center. They all wear their red bracelets. And each one of these celebrities has been brought to us as a god form or goddess form. And I have a depiction of Britney as Athena on my website with a bunch of the other celebrities and the different variations that they've used in these god forms. And currently, when I saw Miley Cyrus coming down out of that teddy bear on the VMAs, on MTV's Music Awards, it was clear to me with the amount of tongue gesturing that she was doing that she was to invoke Kali. Now, I had already written this, and then I went back and I'd made an artwork of Miley as Kali, because, I have, a dozen pictures, different, separate pictures of her sticking out her tongue, right? And this is just not normal. But then when I saw her coming out of that teddy bear, and I saw her stroking invisible hair, that was when I realized she was invoking Kali, because Kali is depicted with this long hair and has skulls and people's heads around her neck. And really, Kali is a symbol of the end of time, or the time of death. And so basically, this high-profile gesture of the elite to put Miley on stage as Kali is a death knell. It's a symbol of the end of times.
Yeah, this definitely looks like this is the apocalypse right now, the unveiling, and you're seeing things, I'm seeing things, reporting on them, and of course there's a lot of people on the internet right now that are also unveiling a lot of these mysteries and these truths that are pretty much hidden right in front of our face. And I know you had done a recent podcast on the apocalypse and the new pope, and made the connections there as well. So it seems like this is the unveiling happening right before our eyes. And I don't know if you had saw that the Olympics 2012, the ceremonies and the rituals done there, but one of the symbols they had was the phoenix, and that usually symbols a new age. So it was interesting, 2012 Olympics, we see the phoenix, and we had the Mayan prophecies as well. Did you get a chance to see that?
I saw some of it. I wish I had been able to get more into it. We almost could have predicted everything that we saw. We honestly did predict what we were going to see at the VMAs unknowingly. I didn't even realize they were coming up right away. So we did a show with a 13-year-old girl, Natalie Hart, and she does Crystal Kids Radio.
Yeah.
And basically all of the symbolism that we were discussing ended up being presented on the VMAs without us even realizing that was coming up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But the London, I mean, to have Voldemort come out there and just lay waste to all these children, and the different symbolism that they had going on, and the guy from Kids, the music group Kids, I thought they were new. I had never heard of them before. I had been initiated into Kids when I saw their Police State video, and I was like, wow, who are these guys? And next thing I know, he's running the Olympic ceremony, and I'm just like, no, this is just too weird. And all of the symbolism that they showed us there of, yes, exactly, death and resurrection, the idea of laying waste to all of the children, and then the rise again of this Order of the Quest, as they like to call themselves, or these Illuminatis. Yeah, it's all right there in front of our eyes.
Freeman, what do you think we're heading to as far as the new age? You know, it looks like we're in a transition period from one age to the other, and I know there's been a lot of references to that. And if you really look at how civilizations are built, in order to start anew, you have to destroy the old. And we've seen this throughout history. Do you see this happening now? You made the references to Kali and her being the goddess of destruction and so forth. So do you see that is the period that we're heading into, the destroyer age?
Yeah, you know, and it's been 20 years of seeing this destruction, so it is kind of a long road, and you begin to wonder, you begin to question yourself as you have been doing and conspiracy research for so long, talking about chemtrails for 20 years, you know, and you get, you start to think that, well, maybe it's slower than I think it's going to happen. But I do really think that it will come like a thief in the night. And one of the key factors that I've discovered in this whole situation is that it seems there's a spiritual barrier that they must go through, and that is to get our free will agreements. And so they present us these concepts, ideas, and everything else through the medias, you know, especially Hollywood and television, and then also music videos. And then we give our free will spiritual soul's agreement to their actions. And I think that they really have to go through that barrier, and that's why they present everything to us.
Yeah, it's obvious this is the unveiling, because they're pretty much telling us in front of our faces what they're going to do, whether that be through the media, rituals, or symbolisms. And it just seems like we're heading to something big right now.
They're obviously trying to push World War III. They're trying to push whatever button they can. I had looked at what I was seeing in our future, and I had listed that I knew we would go to war with Iran. I put this up on my website in 2006, saying that we would go to war with Iran, and that this would cause the Russia-China alliance to then have a reasonable reason to start this World War III, to come after us. All the while, the propaganda arm of America, now a lot of people think that what we see at the VMAs is really just to, you know, degrade our children or things of that, but it has an outside influence as well. And what I firmly believe is that they've been sharing the lowest, basest form of America with the rest of the world through, say, Honey Boo Boo or Sex in the City, or even Miley's stripper performance at the VMAs. And this then gives them that soul feeling that, well, it's okay to destroy those guys. And they've always got to do that as well. The propaganda arm that makes it okay for the rest of the world to say, yeah, wipe them out. And so what I'm seeing is this presentation of America to the rest of the world that we are the great Satan, and that we should be eradicated from the world. They want the truthers coming out and showing all of the evils that our government is doing. And I've been saying this all along, that Chicken Little plays a role in this as well. And when they are feeding you this hatred, you got to be very careful that you're not spreading that hatred and causing the very reactions that you're trying to avoid. So I always recommend people go and watch Disney's Chicken Little, and they look at me like I'm green. And I'm like, look, you got to understand the propaganda before you can really understand what's going on. You wouldn't be thinking that Miley Cyrus was just doing some crazy stripper performance. You would understand that Walt Disney Co. was taken over by the military-industrial complex back in its inception, and was used as a propaganda arm. A propaganda arm that Hitler's propagandist, Joseph Goebbels, found so well done. I mean, he when Goebbels saw that Donald Duck had gotten 50% of the more Americans to pay their income taxes, he said, we need this medium. And they started making cartoons of their own. Now, Disney came out first, and it was Goebbels who thanked Disney for teaching them the methods of global mind control. And then it was the Nazis who tried to put a television in every home through the corporation Telefunken. And Telefunken is now AEG, which is one of the main distributors of our modern culture and music.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that we've come this far as a society with all this technology that is allegedly here to benefit us. And a lot of this technology, of course, I use, and there's the smartphones, the cell phones, and the internet, which I make a living, and I know you're doing all your work pretty much, off the internet, and myself and a lot of people in the truth movement. And there's the dichotomy here because these devices are also used to control us, and I feel they're mind control devices if you don't manage them properly. And I see a lot of people, even in this movement, who are in the truth movement, are really truly mind controlled, and they're not really in control of themselves. They're spinning their wheels on the internet, never getting anything done. Do you feel that a lot of these devices are doing just that?
Yeah, I mean, if people really realized how strange life on planet Earth is, these little political schemes would seem like nothing. When you start to branch out into the concepts that I'm dealing with, multi-interdimensional beings, contact with these interdimensional beings through ritual magic, the ideas of the elite using and performing invocations and things of this nature, that's when you start to really get to the puzzle of things. And the rest is just chess play. So I really feel like they're going to do some major event at the Temple Mount, and this is going to spark one of the major holy wars. And as I've been looking at this idea, lo and behold, if old Pope Benedict didn't come out and exonerate the Knights Templar. Now, this has made no press, really, no news. Even I know the commander of the Knights Templar here in Kansas, and I discussed these things with them. And I'm like, well, isn't this a big deal? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, come on. Now, in 1307, Friday the 13th, the very reason Friday the 13th is considered the most unlucky day is because it was the day that Pope Clement and King Philip came forward and put out a papal bull to destroy the Knights Templar, who were a secret society that were performing ancient mystic rites, that were somehow used this knowledge to become the most wealthy, powerful beings on the planet, and then were squashed by the Pope on Friday the 13th, 1307. Most then were allowed, they were given enough time to escape, to go to, say, Scotland and Ireland and get away, and this is kind of where the Braveheart story picks up. And then there was the symbolic ritual murder of the heads of the Knights Templars, so Jacques de Molay being the Grand Master, burnt at the stake. And still today the Freemasons have the de Molay order, which is the Boy Scouts of Freemasonry, and they still herald the cry of long live Jacques de Molay. But now we're talking about 1307 when this happened. Now we got 2013, or was it 2012, when Pope Benedict exonerates the Knights Templar. He found a hidden 600-year-old document that had been lost all this time that actually showed that they weren't guilty of communication with the devil, kissing each other on the anus, denying the Christ, all of the things that they had been tortured and confessed to. And so when the Pope Benedict came forward and exonerated them, this was further evidence that I'm correct about the Temple Mount playing a large role in the consummation of World War III. And then, boom, the Pope quits, And all of a sudden we got a Jesuit Pope. Now this gets really frightening, because now the Jesuits are another secret society who were actually given all the power after the Templars had lost theirs. We got the Hospitallers and the Jesuits. And we have always had this Black Pope, who is the Grand Commander of the Jesuits, the General superior general of the Jesuits, as the Black Pope, and then we had a white Pope who was like Pope Benedict, but now our current Pope is also a Jesuit, so now both the Black and White Pope are Jesuits, and we've got the exoneration of the Knights Templar and a war going on inside of Freemasonry. These are the type of things that people should be thinking about in their global structures and looking at the political platforms, not so much, who did what false flag. Although that is important, it's just...
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. There's a book called The Master Game by Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval, and I've listened to some interviews of Robert Bauval, who's lived in Egypt, I think some 30 years and all over the globe. But he basically says in those countries such as Egypt that it's common knowledge that there's a Freemasonic conspiracy. From the elders, adults down to the children on the streets. It's just common knowledge that there's a Freemasonic Zion conspiracy against them. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, hard to say, because I've been watching the platform of the idea of them using these threats that Werner von Braun, the Nazi who came over and started found NASA and Disney World, by the way. And Werner von Braun had given this outline to Carol Rosen, his secretary, and he outlined that there were beings from another dimension that or from the universe, as he would say, and they are not harmful. And the powers that be on planet Earth that are, I guess, in communication with these other beings, we're going to use this platform to bring about. So they use the Red Scare, the terrorism, asteroids, and then aliens. And so I kind of took that as my platform to say, okay, what's going to be next? And when I started looking to the next step, it was asteroids. And so I did an artwork of Barack Obama as Akhenaten. And I think this is going to play a whole lot heavier into the story later on. But then, as soon as I had put this together with Akhenaten and Obama with an asteroid hurtling towards his head, 3 months later, they announced that there was an asteroid heading towards planet Earth and was going to destroy all life. And this asteroid was named Apophis. And this really just, it sent a shiver down my spine. It freaked me out. I just couldn't believe it, because Apophis is Akhenaten's Satan. And so the odds of this whole thing coming together like I was presenting it was just too much. It's just like, nah, this can't be real. And of course, Apophis was never a threat, and they had said this as well, but yet they promoted it as a threat, Apophis to destroy all life in 2029. And yet they would then say, well, it's about a 4 in a billion chance that it's actually going to happen, But to put the name out in front of us and to use the threat, and then the asteroids coming into Russia just recently and causing the sonic boom and all of those, I've been tracking those for some time now on my Space War News. For a long time, I was tracking these incoming fireballs that were causing sonic booms and often followed by earthquakes, because these things were unheard of. Prior to HARP, as far as I knew, I had not come across any others that were saying this. And for a few years, I tracked these fireballs, and the scientists were all very confused because there were no rocks involved. No matter what tests they were doing, they could not formulate that there was actually a piece of matter in the fireball. And so this became a big deal. And then all of a sudden, I think it was the University of Pennsylvania or Massachusetts, I can't remember, but the lead scientist that was looking into the bolide conspiracy, the idea that there were no rocks on these fireballs, one suddenly landed in his backyard, and the mystery was solved, right? And I'm just like, this is too much. Well, all of a sudden they announced, and I have the announcement on the Space War News, that fireballs were now classified as secret and could they do interagency scientific research data, and all of the astronomers and the people that were using this data were up in arms. What do you mean, right now? And so at this very moment, as of the day before yesterday, they shut down what's known as the space fence. And this is Space Command. If you guys don't know, there's the United States Space Force. You'll see their patches on Stargate. If you watch the TV show, it is housed inside of Cheyenne Mountain. And there are space battle labs and space battalions and United States Space Force. And they have a collection of satellites orbiting the planet. There are numerous different variations, but this one, called the Space Fence, has just been shut down. And I think this is very unusual at the height of the threat of near-Earth objects, because they've been pushing this threat, saying near-Earth objects, you check JPL. Now, JPL, Jet Propulsion's Laboratories, they were founded by Jack Parsons, who was an OTO, was a magician, was doing rituals to Pan to the launches of the nukes, and was working with Wernher von Braun, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley. That's Jet Propulsion's Laboratories. So once again, just always remember where the stuff comes from. Because once you realize it's the occultist putting televisions in your house, putting large hadron colliders to find the other dimension, it's the occultists that are doing this, not some great scientists. It's the ones that are already into these realms, like the Nazis and the SS and the Thule Society had the foundation for the Nazi Party by communication with extra-dimensional beings. So just, never underestimate this situation. So I don't know if we're going to get this great grand show of incoming near-Earth objects, fireballs, but the Space Fence has been taken down as of the day of yesterday, and they are planning on using some sort of UHF television-based radar to now watch the incoming bolides or rocks and things. So I'm a little curious about that. And then of course, aliens being the next step in Wernher von Braun's explanation of the end of the world. So I'm real curious when the big show happens. And I think that, yes, it would have to come to the point where we are at this destabilization, Fukushima destroying everything across the Pacific Ocean, just getting to this point of no return. And that's when the Great Savior V scenario might occur. I really think it's going to be more on that level than on the ground warfare. But yet at the same time, I feel like the Sandy Hook event was there to perpetuate the purchase of guns. There's never been a greater sale on AR-15s than after Adam Lanza died in Sandy Hook, along with all the children that he supposedly killed. To me, that is psychological warfare to cause people to buy guns. The idea, they're taking your guns, is to tell you to go buy them. So now we're all well armed with these semi-automatic weapons, and so I do believe that they want us to kill one another, and that's a big part of the plan. So destabilizing the economy, causing this strife, along with all of the global problems that are going on. Because the new warfare, every time we have a world war, it's a step above. We went from, just shooting one another with one musket to then, jets with the Nazis and then moving into the modern warfare. Now we've got the largest submarines in the world going around, and we've got, things like the Norway spiral occurring out of submarines. I think that the powers that be now have the powers of God. They are able to cause earthquakes, floods, superstorms, and all of that. So I think the new modern warfare might not even be recognized as warfare.
It definitely looks like we're living in the age of Aldous Huxley, what he had predicted, where we would live in an illusion and be ruled by science. And we are in that scientific dictatorship now, where you have the drugs and the vaccines and kind of ruling us via our chemical energies, and they have the media and the propaganda and the so forth. But we have free will in the system, where we don't have to buy into all of that. We don't have to poison us. We don't have to take these vaccines. But if we don't have the knowledge, of course, we could be trapped into it. So it's a weird dichotomy, compared to old systems, where in the past, they ruled us by a gun, by a sword, by a torch, where they would burn us at the stake for some of the things that we're saying, on these podcasts, Freeman. And I'm sure some of the videos that you've done, in the past, you wouldn't be around right now, but now we can. and the guillotine cutting people's heads off. So, now it's pretty much ruled by the law, the rule of law, and, the powers that be, of course, willed the keys to the kingdom and the jails and the prisons, and they run the police forces and so forth. So, they do give us the privilege to speak our mind via the First Amendment, and right now we're not getting locked up in Guantanamo Bay, we're not getting killed or anything like that. So I do appreciate some things in the system, and there's a lot of things that I don't like as well. But, what's better? Is it better to be ruled by the gun and the sword, where, guys such as yourself and myself would be killed and burned at the stake in the old systems, or now we're just kind of, ostracized a little bit, and we're maybe censored our websites, or sometimes our podcast or something. What do you feel as far as the old system and the new system we're in now? And do you think we're just given that illusion that we are free and we're really not, and it's just this illusion to make us look at and love our slavery?
We are definitely in a serfdom. We are all just slaves to this. There's no real escape out of the zoo.
Hasn't it always been that way, though? And we're just kind of given that illusion that we're free.
Yeah, I think that we were simply given the illusion of freedom here in America, and because we've been lied to from the very beginning about the formation of corporations and the ideas of who's been in charge, and are we the Virginia Company? Things of this nature. So, when I look out at the world, and I travel all the time from 1993 till now. I've been just bouncing around coast to coast to coast to coast, 4 times a summer sometimes, and I meet people over and over and over again. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and they're all good. They're all wonderful people that want to share. They're all people that want to go and, cook up the biggest thing they can to share with all the most people that they could. And this is the normal state of humanity. And the rest is the psychosis that's put before us by the psychopaths. So people are forced into this psychopathic system. But the base nature of humanity is great and wonderful, loving, caring, nurturing, just beautiful beings. And we forget that. We don't realize as we wander around in the grocery store, like, why isn't that guy jumping on me and ripping my throat out with his neck? Ripping my throat out with his teeth. Because that's not humanity, we are all scared now of one another. We've been made shy through the indoctrination of school systems, through the Prussian school systems that were put through and put into different age categories and things like that to separate us all, so that we don't have any community, so that we don't meet old people and get to learn some stuff that we didn't know, so that we don't get to curb our actions of being around younger children, so that we don't offend their innocence. We're all separated and migrated into these culture groups of age, which is just horrible. And that way society can never grow. But I would see that if we were to disperse corporations, disperse central government, move into localized governing powers, then humanity would just grow gardens, love one another, live in homes, and everything would be really grand. This idea of progress, this wanting to drive out and go live on Mars. Right now, you can. Well, they just ended the contest for the one-way ticket to Mars. Who wants to go? Who wants to go on a one-way ticket trip to Mars? I mean,
didn't 100,000 people sign up for that?
Oh yeah, there were a lot. I think there were. I don't remember. I think it came down to a base 40, though, after all of the selections went through. I'll have to look that up again. But, there were tons of people willing to take a one-way trip to Mars.
Yeah, I thought I saw the number 100,000, so that's amazing.
So what is this progress, And when we look to the system, it's always the occultist. It's always these ones that are dabbling in magic that are pushing the envelope, that are pushing the concepts of these technologies and usually for the hope of gaining the access to the demonic realms. I mean, I always cringe when I use the terms myself, but these are their words.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, Freeman. This is their words. Basically, this is their knowledge. So it's coming from somewhere, and it's got to be coming from them. So they're basically unveiling this knowledge to the masses and for those who seek the truth as well. So they are offering us some free will in this system, in this, you know, prison planet that Alex Jones likes to call it, where we can gather that knowledge and use some of this free will to, you know, maybe defend some of the black magic and so forth, and not buy into the propaganda and the fear and the corruption and so forth. You know, we can take the higher route if we choose to do that. You know, what are your thoughts on the system being free will and also the things that aren't?
Yeah, there are levels to this, and it gets manipulated. And I think that the 60s are a classic example of how they can use your free will against you. Because what we had in the 60s was a gathering of souls that were opposed to warfare and were really trying to stand united against the Vietnam War, to say, you know, we are all together here. And what occurred was egoistic slip. And the ego is always the path of the Luciferians, the path of these elite that want to guide things. And the ego is the one thing that we really got to, you know, curb. And so they started formulating subsections within this unified group. So what about the African Americans? Don't you deserve rights? What about you women? You deserve rights. And you know, now homosexuality. And what is occurring was each one thought this was a great idea. Yeah, right. Yeah, we need to stand up for ourselves. And what this did was disperse the unified group into a multitude of groups that could be more easily controlled, and then they were at one another. And so often we think that liberties are coming to us, are giving us the potential for a better existence, when actually they're just being manipulated, because if we had stayed unified in the one thought, then we may have ended this whole structure of a war economy. You know, so in that way, I see free will used in the ego and then used as a dispersal mechanism to cause strife within people's groups, and all of a sudden now they're, you know, battling each other.
And of course, that's where the black magic would come in to play against people in the chaos and the darkness. But also there's the other end of the dichotomy, the people that it doesn't seem to work on as well, where they're able to break free from the chains and tentacles of this system, this control system. And they seem to, you know, the powers that be allow us to some extent, as long as it's not a threat, you know, to national homeland security. You know, if it was, we would be in Guantanamo Bay. But, you know, what's your thoughts as far as the people out there that, you know, could see the light and break free and are not mind controlled by this system?
Yeah, I wonder about that, because you know, I've always been a bit strange, so I've never fit in. I've always been an alien in the wheels, and maybe that's it, you know, because I often have believed that you know, my soul traveled here from a distant planet, much like the Mormons or Scientology, you know, that I came here at this time, at this moment, for this purpose. And so I never did get indoctrinated all that heavily, because most of it didn't make any sense to me. And I think that there's a lot of us incarnating the Crystal Kids and the First Front and all of the things that people are calling it. But I just there is a psychical type of sense that comes in with archetypal forces, and this is really what the Illuminati, the OTO, and all of them base their whole structures on. So if we take the idea of Crowley and saying that we are entering the age of Horus, which is the age of the crowned and conquering child, and then you start to see how he describes this crowned and conquering child and how it relates to our age of Horus, And then you start to look at how society is going, and it all fits. Bill Clinton and the Y2K ritual was a prime example of the outer expression of the age of Horus, which was infidelity, so we got the whole Bill Clinton scandal. We got, they even crashed a plane with Horus on it right before the Y2K ritual, which was a big mystery, Egyptian Flight 990. And then the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold and things of that. So what we see is that there are archetypal forces that are cyclical, and that then these are played upon by the sorcerers, those that use magic for the ego. And then they use these forces to then strengthen positions and things. And if you know about weather, say it's weather, then you know what to do, and you could prepare. And so these guys are the ones that are looking into those realms of weather, of esoteric weather, and then organizing their base structure on these concepts.
What's the purpose, do you think, behind this whole plan and, all the rituals and all the pomp and everything that is going on around the world right now? Do you think we're heading into that destruction and, the destroyer age? You had mentioned the Miley Cyrus ritual and Kali, being the goddess of destruction. Do you see that's where we're going now into the coming years?
Well, I thought the lyrics of Miley's song, "We Can't Stop," was rather illuminating in its own way, saying, doing whatever we want, this is our house, this is our rules, we can't stop and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we that own the night? Can't you see that it's we about that life? We who about that life? What does that mean? But we can't stop, we won't stop. We run things. Things don't run we. We don't take nothing from nobody. These are some pretty crappy lyrics, but that's the song. And I believe that is really where these guys are at, where it's like an addict that desperately wants to stop but can't. And so they have been channeling these entities for millennia. And I do believe that the elites, the bloodlines, actually have a better receptor for these particular frequencies of entities, which we've become calling the archons, or related them to the Egyptian 9 gods, or the Ennead. And that this thought form, or what is known as a egregor in magic terms, or even a corporation, but these thought forms, these archetypal forces, are in control of these entities, the ones that we call the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, the Rockefellers and the Astors and such. And we know that they're going into channeling sessions with the 9 using psychics like Uri Geller. And we know that they have been formulating this over millennia. So, I often question why they would have, why would Kissinger, why would any of these people put so much effort into a system that they were never going to get to see to come to fruition? H.W. Bush, why would they work so hard towards this New World Order when they know they get no place in it? And I really do believe that it is contact with these interdimensional beings. And I don't know, I've seen H.W. Bush's eyes turn reptilian. But what's really curious to me right now, I have a video called New World Order Global Capitals. And what I've discovered is that these new capitals, such as Astana, now get to know Astana in Kazakhstan, because this is a big deal. That is one of it's probably going to be the major playing place of the New World Order. This is where they have the Pyramid of Peace, where the global religion gathers. You have to walk through this massive pyramid to get into the city center, and then as you walk in, you've got 2 massive copper pylons or columns that are sitting side by side, and these are Jachin and Boaz, the columns of Freemasonry and of the Temple of Magic. And then you've got this massive orb, and up inside that orb, a triangle with the architect's hand in it. And the thing of it is, when you see Astana from space, the city layout, which was a pre-planned city, is actually designed as a seal of Solomon, a magical seal or sigil that is used to control demons. You can take Solomon's magical order, magical book, the grimoire as it's known, and look at the seals within it. And Solomon came up with 72 seals to bind and use demons. Well, this is just standard history as far as I know. I mean, if Solomon existed and all of that, but, you know, it's one of the oldest and most basic forms of magic known as Goetia. And this is what they have now designed these super cities into, are Goetic seals, which are seals used to control demons. And you'll also find that Canberra, the capital of Australia, is also designed as this ancient Solomon seal, a different one. And so each of these global capitals that are forming now, realize in Astana in Kazakhstan, that is where they launched to the International Space Station. This is one of the biggest cities in the world. It's one of the most modern cities in the world. They're even going to build the first indoor city there. So people that watch, Borat and think that Kazakhstan is a bunch of goats and you know, people in tents and such have been completely misled. You know, they have the most modern, most amazing architecture going on there, and it's bizarre. It's crazy bizarre. And it's designed, like I say, in magical ritual. So just recently, it was discovered that in Kazakhstan there's this on Google Maps, and you'll see this in my Aliens from Hell post. You can put the latitude and longitude into Google Maps. I have the numbers there for you to do so, and you will see in Kazakhstan they have the Seal of Devil. It's what it's called on Google Maps. And it is an inverted pentagram made out of a forest. And when you translate the Russian in there, it says future summer camp. So I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be. Sorry, lots of chemtrails today. But, you know, there it is, right? Just above where we launch to the International Space Station. And then getting back to the idea of why these guys would perpetuate this New World Order when they know they're not going to live in it. Well, we are the first generation that could live forever. And we're starting to see that over and over again, especially with this Canadian dentist that wants to clone John Lennon. You can start to see how we're progressing and how the elite think that maybe they get a new body not too distant future.
You know, Freeman, I've been studying the elite for quite some time now and the secret history of America, and it's really fascinating to me because I think this is the first time in history where the people, you know, the citizen, the pleb, did not know who was ruling them, who were the secret rulers of government. So it's this kind of cat and mouse game that some of us play to see who is ruling, and, you know, this secret occult history of America. You know, if you read Manly P. Halmer's book, The Secret Destiny of America, it's pretty much, you know, America was set up by Freemasons, with George Washington being, you know, a Freemason himself. And then you have the Catholic Church, who has been a huge powerhouse in the forming of the Western world as we know it. And then you talk about the secret wars in Freemasonry. What's your thoughts now, you know, with the, you know, Pope exonerating the Knights Templar and everything seems hunky-dory there, and then Freemasons possibly, you know, being the Knights Templar as well. Are they all united now as one? What's going on?
No, I don't believe they are. I really do believe that Freemasonry is, you know, one of the last bastions of anti-Catholicism in the secret society realms. So, you know, that has always been a major role of Freemasonry. It's basically anti-Pope. As we start to look at the puzzle, you know, you see that through the Tudors and through the idea of Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary, the whole struggle between Protestantism and the Catholic Church. And then that came over to America, and it was actually John Dee, who was the original 007 and the Queen's conjurer, as he was known, that sent the first colonization over to the America, which he thought was Atlantis at that time. So a lot of the belief systems that were around when we were starting to found these things, most people just consider silly today. And you got to realize that they did believe they were going to Atlantis when they found America. And the belief systems of the secret societies that were founding these nations then are what boiled up into what we call today. And I forgot where I was going to go with your question.
Oh, no, that's okay. I do that all the time, Freeman. But anyways, let's get back to the subject of blood and the elite. You know, when I study history and even recent history, blood has always been really important to the ruling class, the powers that be, and they always kept it in the family, whatever family that might be. And, you know, when you look at the founding of America and, you know, the way it was set up, it was almost as if it was a mixed match of different races and different ruling elite who had sent their people over here to kind of mix together. And we're a mixed match of all those different bloods all into one kind of, you know, hodgepodge here in America, but they're keeping it in the family. Do you think this was all by design to possibly confuse, you know, the tribal mentality that we've all had embedded in our blood for thousands of years, possibly?
Yeah, like I say, I do believe that their blue blood is more connected with these type of entities and are, you know, have a better communication conduit for channeling these extra-dimensional beings or demons, whichever you want to call them. As far as opening up free license for us to mingle, it's been a very curious situation because one, when you start to look into the secret society's takeover of nations, you will see that they want to remove the indigenous tribes immediately and breed them out as quickly as they possibly can. And I think this has a lot to do with, one, that I don't think that these bloodlines are originally Earthlings, and that there is a vibrational frequencies that are dealt with in clans, in bloodlines, and you know, aboriginals. And so one of their main things to do was first to just kill the culture, like they did with the Native Americans, did with Mexicans, did with all, you know.
And the easiest way, of course, would be an ethnic cleansing and then just have everybody mix with whatever new race that they move in, or the conquerors would rape the people there, correct?
Yeah, it starts to delineate the very...
the blood.
Yeah, the blood, exactly.
You know, a lot of our history is hidden within our blood, and that's one of the big secrets, I think, that is being kept from us. And when I study Gnosis and Gnosticism, you know, I understand that DNA, just like any creature, is important. So when you mix it up, you're definitely going to have mixed up signals and a mixed up population. And I know the DNA is also tribal and racial, of course, you know, depending on your haplogroup. And these entities also seem to be tribal, you know, which in some cultures they're called demons, and in Christianity they call angels. And then you have the Elohim and the Nephilim, and the relation to the 33rd degree parallel coming through here, Los Angeles, through Phoenix, Arizona, and of course all the way into Syria now at Mount Hermon, and that's where the Nephilim fell. What is the relation with the demons and the 33rd degree and, you know, all these things that are going on?
Well, you know, you got me thinking that we realize that the royal family keeps having to kind of interbreed and bring a little bit of human blood back in, and that was really the Princess Diana conspiracy, to get a Stuart bloodline in there to try to bring a little human back and, you know, then give birth to the king, or the prince and, you know, princess and, or the princes, I should say, you know, and now the King George, right, and the new child coming through Kate. This, to me, seems like they needed to kind of get back into the earth realms, that they can start to lose touch with the realms here. And so it's kind of a balance of bringing in the earthly vibrations into their blood.
Yeah, Yeah, that seems like it could definitely play a part in the bloodlines. You know, who knows if we'll ever know. But anyways, we've been talking for a little bit over an hour now, Freeman, and I want to leave the audience with what you're doing next and where we could reach you. I know you're at freemantv.com, and you're going to be working with David Icke possibly in the future. What else do you got going on and you want to leave the audience with?
Well, I have been studying very hard on the different internet television programs to try to get an idea of what I could do to surpass them all. I'm really excited to pull out some sort of media form that is going to reach the masses. So for the rest of the day, I will be doing nothing but editing satanic corporate logos for the next TV show, which is supposed to come out in November. So then I'm working on the with Broader X to produce a little bit of inside the secret societies, and he is going to cover the secret war inside Freemasonry, and I'm going to get to show you a bunch of the different temples that we've been filming and doing. So mostly I'm right now just deep into creation, trying to do all the editing, doing all the things that coordinating everybody and everything, trying to make contact. I continue to try to spread this message of hope and humanity, because I swear to you, I just took a big yellow school bus across the entire United States and met nothing but strangers, and they were all beautiful, wonderful people, and this is something that I feel is I'm the only one who could really share this message. There are so many people that are doing podcasts, doing stories, and doing news broadcasts and what's, but very few have ever done what I've done, and that is to put my life in God's hands and to just wander the earth and see the goodness in humanity. And so I'm really hoping that I can then share that with the world. It's not an easy thing to do, because things happen in life and you don't get it all on film, but we did film the entire Miss Emily trip, and I'm going to try to turn that into a film, if not subsections of the new TV show, kind of like a traveling friendship agenda. And we do have the social network, thefriendshipagenda.com, where we're hoping everybody will come and gather to meet the like-minded people, because one of the things that we heard the most was, I never have anyone to talk to about this stuff. And we would say, well, we know 6 or maybe a dozen people in your town that love to talk about this stuff, and I became kind of a catalyst to bring these networks of friends together. So everywhere we went, we left a pocket of friends that never knew each other and now are good friends and still good friends. And the Friendship Agenda, I think, is the key to our release from this whole structure that we're stuck in.
We need to keep it human in the age of the internet. I know a lot of us find ourselves here on this digital medium, this holographic atmosphere, but we also need to keep it human and touch people. And Freeman, you're a perfect example of that, with the Friendship Agenda, and you traveling across country with your significant other and touching people with your work. It's just great that you're doing that. I appreciate you, brother, for everything that you're doing, and I know there's a lot of people out there that also appreciate that. So please, if you like what you've heard tonight, or Freeman from before, support him in any way you can. A donation, $5, $10, $20, or if you could buy one of his videos or his books, his recent movie, Aliens from Hell. And it's really great, the work that he's doing, and if you would like to see him more, go to freemantv.com. Again, that's freemantv.com. And if you'd like more of these podcasts, you can go to gnosticwarrior.com. That's my website. This is Mo, and that again is gnosticwarrior.com. And there's a bunch of free podcasts there and different kinds of articles that are unique that you might like to check out. So anyways, again, Freeman, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo, and I appreciate you very much. Talk to you next time.
Okay.